Rain had been falling for hours when she stumbled deeper into the woods, boots sinking into the mud. Every breath came ragged, every step heavier. Emily Harper's phone was dead, her flashlight lost somewhere near the twisted roots of an old oak. She was cold. She was hungry. She was ready to give up. Somewhere behind her, the wind whispered through the trees, like voices. Then came the sound of paws crunching in wet leaves. She froze. A large German shepherd stepped into view, soaked to the bone, eyes locked on hers. What happened next would change everything. Before we continue, if you want more stories like this, a like and a subscribe would mean a lot. The trees here were older than anyone in Cedar Falls could remember. Gnarled limbs bent over the dirt track, leaves forming a canopy so thick it smothered the last of the day's light. Emily pulled her jacket tighter against her shoulders and pressed forward, though every instinct screamed at her to turn back. She'd been walking for hours, though the world seemed smaller, like the forest itself was closing in. Earlier that day, Emily had been in town picking up supplies, camping gear for a weekend she promised herself. But she had taken a wrong turn, distracted by an old map she'd found tucked inside a notebook at her grandmother's attic. It was fragile, the edges brittle with age, marked with red X somewhere deep in these woods. She thought it might be a hiking shortcut. Now, she wasn't so sure. Rain had started after noon, steady and cold. So she pulled her scarf higher and moved faster, her boots sinking into the mud. Somewhere behind her, branches snapped underfoot. She spun around. Nothing. The forest seemed almost impossibly quiet again. She didn't hear the sound at first, the low thud of paws hitting earth, the sharp rustle of leaves. Then it was closer. Something was coming toward her. A figure stepped into the dim. Not a man. A dog. A massive German shepherd. Soaked and trembling, its fur plastered against its ribs. His coat was dark, the eyes a piercing amber that seemed to hold understanding. Emily froze, unsure she should run or stand her ground. The dog came closer, slow and deliberate. It stopped 5 feet away and lowered its head. Then it barked, low, urgent, almost human. Emily swallowed, her throat dry. Hey there. You lost too, she whispered. The dog tilted its head. Then, without warning, it turned and bounded deeper into the forest. For a moment she thought it was leaving her, but something in its gait was different now. It wasn't running away. It was beckoning. She hesitated. Every rational instinct screamed to stay put. But another voice, the one inside her, urged her forward. She followed. The rain grew heavier. Each step became a challenge. The dog moved swiftly, but never too far ahead. Emily's heart pounded. She had no idea how long she'd been walking, but the forest around her seemed to shift. Trees grew closer together. Moss covered the ground like a thick carpet, swallowing sound. A faint scent rose in the air, something metallic, something sharp. Blood. Her breath caught. She called out, "Hello? Is anyone here?" Only silence. Then she saw him. A man. Lean, tall, with a hood drawn over his head. He was standing by a clearing she had never seen before. His eyes locked on hers, not with hostility, but with a strange calculation. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. The dog growled. Low. Warning. The man stepped forward, then stopped. The dog stepped between them. Don't. The man said finally, voice low. It wasn't loud enough to carry far, but Emily heard it clearly. Something about the word froze her in place. The man turned away, disappearing into the shadows of the trees. The dog stayed. It looked at her, then back toward the clearing. Its growl softened. Then it barked once, sharp, urgent. Emily took a step forward. Then another. The forest seemed to close behind her. She didn't know it yet, but this was the moment her life shifted forever. The moment Emily stepped into the clearing, the forest's weight seemed to vanish. Rain still drummed steadily overhead, but the air here was stiller, heavier, as if the world was holding its breath. A thick carpet of moss cushioned her boots. The smell of wet earth was overpowering, mingled with something sharper, iron, copper, blood. The German shepherd stood just ahead of her, ears pricked, eyes fixed on something in the center of the clearing. Emily froze. Her breath came in short, uneven gasps. The instinct to run was clawing at her, but she felt pulled forward instead, drawn by a force she couldn't name. When she stepped closer, her foot sank into something soft. She looked down. There, pressed into the moss, was a human footprint. Fresh, blood-stained. Emily's pulse slammed in her ears. She glanced around the clearing. The trees surrounding them were tall and thick, blackened with rain and shadow. Somewhere behind her, the sound of dripping water was joined by another sound. Something faint, a soft dragging, like someone pulling their feet over wet earth. She looked at the dog. It had shifted, now sitting down, rigid and watchful. Its gaze wasn't on her. It was fixed on the opposite edge of the clearing. Emily followed its stare. There, half hidden beneath a tangle of roots and undergrowth, was a dark shape. At first she thought it was a log, but the texture was wrong. It was too smooth, too deliberate. She stepped closer. The dog growled softly. Her boots squelched in the mud. She reached out to push the undergrowth aside. Her fingers hit cold metal, something like a box. The dog barked sharply, low and warning, but Emily's curiosity burned brighter than her fear. She tugged harder. The box gave way with a soft groan. She pulled it out. It was a small, rusted metal chest, bound with chains. The lock was old, corroded, but intact. Emily's hands trembled. Her fingers traced the rough metal. She could feel something inside, a subtle vibration, almost like a heartbeat. The dog barked again, louder now, not at her, but at the tree lean behind her. Emily spun. The forest beyond the clearing had grown darker. Shapes moved in the shadows, figures she couldn't make out. They were watching. A voice came from the trees. Low, calm, but edged with something dangerous. You shouldn't be here. Emily's heart slammed into her ribs. The voice belonged to a man she'd seen earlier, the one in the hood. He stepped into the clearing, his boots heavy on the moss, water dripping from his jacket. His eyes were fixed on the chest. The dog moved between Emily and the man, teeth bared. The man stopped, not flinching. He simply tilted his head, studying her. You don't know what you're holding, he said. Emily's voice caught in her throat. What is this? What are you doing here? He smiled faintly, not kindly, but with a weight of meaning she couldn't read. Some things aren't meant to be found. The dog growled again. Then it did something unexpected. It stepped forward, pressed its muzzle against the chest, and let out a low, mournful howl. Emily glanced at the man. His face was unreadable, but his hand moved toward the chest. Before he could touch it, the dog lunged, not at him, but into the clearing, tearing through the air towards something unseen. Emily stumbled backward. The man swore under his breath, drawing something small from his coat, a knife. But before he could act, the dog returned, dragging something behind it. Emily's breath caught. The dog had something in its jaws, a human hand. Pale, broken, wet with blood. She gagged, turning away. The man's expression hardened. You need to leave. Now. Emily's instincts screamed yes. Her legs wanted to run. But something in the man's tone, the way he said it, made her hesitate. The dog dropped the hand at her feet. It barked once, then sat back, eyes fixed on her, as if urging her open the chest. Emily looked at the rusted lock. Her fingers shook. She knew whatever was inside could destroy her life, or end it. The man stepped closer. If you open it, everything changes. You can't go back. Emily's mind raced, but before she could speak, a sharp crack echoed through the trees, like a branch snapping under heavy weight. Something moved in the darkness beyond. Something alive. The man froze. The dog stiffened. Emily's breath caught. Then they heard it. A whisper. Not human. Not animal. Something else. It was coming closer. Emily's world tilted. She wanted to run, but she couldn't. The chest was calling her name, and so was the darkness. The air in the clearing was thick, wet with rain, and something else Emily couldn't name. The forest around her felt alive, breathing. Somewhere in the shadows, movement stirred. Every sense in her screamed danger. The man stepped closer. Rain streamed from the hood of his jacket. This ends now, he said softly. His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. Emily glanced down at the chest. The dog sat at her feet, eyes fixed on her, chest rising and falling with slow, deliberate breaths. There was something about him, something almost human, in the way he looked at her. The man's gaze shifted the dog. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then he said, "He's the reason you're here, the reason you found this place." Emily's stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" He shook his head. "You've been chasing ghosts. The map, it wasn't yours by accident. Your grandmother." Emily's breath hitched. "My grandmother? What does she have to do with this?" The man's jaw tightened. "Everything." The dog growled low. Emily looked at him. He was watching the man, but there was something else in his gaze, warning, pleading. The kind of look a creature gives when it knows more than you ever will. The man stepped toward her, knife glinting faintly in the rain. "Open it. Now. You need to see." Emily's fingers trembled over the rusted lock. She could hear the forest around her shifting, shadows lengthening. Somewhere in the darkness beyond, a whisper grew louder, a sound that was almost a voice, speaking words she couldn't understand. The dog barked sharply. Emily looked up. The man's expression had changed. No longer calm. His face was a mask of urgency. "Do it before they come." "They?" Emily asked, her voice shaking. His eyes darted toward the trees. "The ones who buried this here. They'll kill you before sunrise." Something in his tone cut her breath away. She glanced down at the chest again. Her hand touched the lock. She felt the metal hum beneath her fingers, as though the chest itself was alive. The dog growled louder, a deep, resonant sound that vibrated through the clearing. Emily froze. "Don't," the man said quietly. "If you open it, you won't just find answers. You'll unleash what they buried." Emily's heart pounded. The whispering in the woods grew louder. Her mind screamed to run, but her curiosity anchored her in place. She slid her fingers over the lock and pressed. It gave. Slowly, she lifted the lid. Inside was a bundle wrapped in oilskin, soaked through with rain. She pulled it free. It was a child's jacket, small, delicate, soaked in blood and mud. Beneath it, a folded photograph. Emily unfolded it with trembling hands. The image was grainy but unmistakable. Her grandmother standing beside a man she had never seen, holding a German shepherd with eyes exactly like the one at her feet. Emily gasped. Her fingers went numb. "It's him." The man stepped forward, his voice breaking. "She didn't want you to know. She tried to bury it all." The dog whined softly. Emily looked at him, at his wet, steady gaze. Then she noticed the blood on his paw. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. The man's face hardened. You can't trust him. He's guarding something that will change everything. Emily's mind spun. Her grandmother. The man. The dog. The photograph. Questions collided in her head. The whisper in the trees became words. Clearer now. "Release it." Emily looked up. The forest was shifting, twisting, almost breathing around them. She turned to the man. "What happens if I open it?" His answer was a whisper. "The truth dies, or so does everything." The dog stepped toward her, placing his paw gently on hers. His eyes bored into hers, pleading, warning, urging her to stop. Emily's breath caught. The choice was hers. She closed the chest and stepped back. The man's shoulders slumped, but he didn't protest. Instead, he nodded slowly. "You've chosen wisely." The dog barked once, softly this time, before turning toward the shadows. He glanced back at her once, a look that was almost human, then vanished into the forest. The man looked at her, rain dripping from his hood. Some doors are never meant to open. Emily's voice was barely audible. "Why me?" His eyes were distant. "Because you remember." He turned and walked away into the darkness, the forest swallowing him whole. Emily stayed in the clearing, staring at the chest. Somewhere deep inside her, she knew the choice she made would haunt her forever. The whisper faded. The rain eased. The forest was silent again. Emily turned and walked back the way she came. The path had vanished. She was lost, but she was no longer alone.